Karibuni sana, like we say, welcome. This evening is an evening of celebration. We're going to celebrate and explore the deepening of the Kagiso Trust and KCDF relationship. It's been wonderful hosting our guests, and in fact, I dare suggest that we're not going to call and say they're our guests, our family from South Africa. And if you've lived long enough in Kenya, I almost would have said our cousins. For those who know, but others, you're our brothers and your sisters, and we're very glad that we've had 2 days culminating this evening in this celebratory dinner. And to start us off, may I request that we stand for the national anthem from South Africa. May you rise. Next, the anthem from Kenya.
O God of all creation, blessed is the Lord God nation. Just is the shield and defender. May we dwell in unity, peace and liberty, plenty be found within our borders. Let one and all arise, with power strong and true. Service be our earnest endeavor, and the homeland of Kenya, heritage of splendor, from where we stand to defend. Let all with one accord, in common bond united, build this our nation together, and the glory of Kenya, the fruit of our labor, fill every heart with thanksgiving.
Thank you. We may have our seats. Good evening once again. My name is Edmund Mudibo, and I shall be emceeing this evening. And I'll try to be as seamless, as faceless, nameless, and all those things so that I'm not in your face. But that has a selfish motive, so that I can also enjoy the dinner with you. Our chief guest, the Acting High Commissioner from South Africa, Your Excellency, Ernest Copper, our family from South Africa, Kagiso Trust, our brothers from Kenya, KCDF, ladies and gentlemen, karibuni sana.
I hope you are enjoying your dinner. And on behalf of KCDF, the KCDF entities, and our partners, Kagiso Trust and Kagiso Capital, it is a great honor to welcome you all to this gala dinner, where we shall be celebrating partnership between these two entities, specifically the individuals who made it all possible. Tonight, I'm so excited looking around this room. I don't just see leaders, philanthropists, and professionals. I see a collective of people who believe in the inherent power of our communities to chart their own course. Tonight is a celebration of a shared heartbeat between two organizations and their entities, KCDF and Kagiso Trust, who have long understood that development is not something you do to a community, but something you build with them. When Kagiso and KCDF joined hands around 2010, it wasn't just a joint venture. It was a meeting of minds. From the vibrant landscapes of Kenya to the resilient communities of South Africa, this partnership represents a bridge. It is a bridge that is built on the belief that local resources, local wisdom, and local leadership are the most sustainable energies for change. As we enjoy this evening, let us remember that the work of community development is a marathon. It's not a sprint. The challenges we face, be they in education, economic empowerment, or social justice, require the kind of audacity that this partnership embodies. Tonight, we celebrate the power of local. We celebrate the idea that when we invest in people, the returns are infinite. So I invite you all to lean into the conversations tonight, connect with your neighbor, share your stories, and let us be inspired by what is possible when we work in true solidarity. Allow me now to take you through a brief presentation around KCDF sustainability strategy, and we thought, following from the conversations yesterday, that it would be important to lay out for both these two entities what we see as the future of building sustainability here in Kenya and also in South Africa. So for KCDF, we do have big, audacious dreams. We had the opportunity in August of last year to sit with all the KCDF entities and think, how do we want to be? How do we want to show up as KCDF in the next 10 years? So I'm happy to share with you our financial sustainability dream, but also our impact dream. When we look at our financial sustainability in the next 10 years, our vision is that we will be concentrated on self-sufficiency, diversification, and responsible growth. We want to achieve financial independence as KCDF with our ADAPO, which is our investment arm. ADAPO is a Yoruba word, which means integrated, making it a profitable arm of the KCDF ecosystem. We want to ensure that KCDF can finance at least 85% of its operational and investment needs from internal sources. We want to drive 200% growth in our endowment fund, making it the primary source of our grants and operation support. So one may ask, how do we do that? How do we get there? We recognize that even as we are currently funded by other sources from different sources, we want to make sure as we go on this journey, 80% of our resources are local, 20% coming from outside of Kenya. We want to significantly reduce our donor dependency while increasing access to unrestricted funding. So we welcome you to hold us accountable to that. I have also the pleasure to show you a tidbit of our strategy with regards to ADAPO. ADAPO has a strategic intent as an agile and prudent investment vehicle dedicated to strengthening KCDF's long-term financial sustainability. We look to do this by growing the trust assets, diversifying and increasing revenue streams, and strengthening institutional systems, governance, and digital capability. We want to ensure that the growth of our assets can really reflect our vision for the support that we want to give in Kenya. We want to diversify beyond real estate and endowment, social enterprises, but ensuring that we strengthen our investment policy, our risk frameworks, and ensuring that we follow through with regards to the commitments that we have made to communities. Our approach to this delivery is ensuring that we have governance and policy discipline. annual policy reviews, a strengthening investment committee. We want to use data-driven oversight, market research, quarterly performance reviews, while ensuring that we have revenue diversification, having strategic partnerships, so that's why some of you are in this room tonight, joint ventures, and social enterprise. As KCDF, communities are at the heart of everything that we do, and therefore our vision is to deepen our community impact. We want to expand access to vocational training, business development services, and social enterprise investments. We want to empower communities to lead development interventions, moving from recipients to change makers. And we want to reach and sustain program coverage in all the 47 counties of Kenya. To do this, we're going to prioritize large-scale and transformative programming, especially in marginalized areas. We're going to provide unrestricted grants that foster community ownership and long-term impact, while catalyzing national and regional development, influencing policy and practice, as well as building a network of financially stable, self-sustaining partners beyond just KCDF, who mirror KCDF's values and approaches. We hope that this strategy has excited you as much as it excites us as KCDF. And so we welcome you to join us on this journey as we seek to continue to ensure communities are able to flourish and to be sustainable. Thank you very much.
Our cousins, our family from South Africa, equally, you would not be here if you didn't have a game plan, a strategy. And to make, or to give us a sense of Kagiso Trust programmatic and sustainable strategy, I'm very delighted to invite the Chief Operating Officer of Kagiso Trust, that is Mr. Temba Mola. Temba?
Thank you very much, Program Director. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Allow me to observe the protocol you have established earlier, and also extend my greetings to, you call them fellow cousins? Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm going to walk you through our journey, but briefly, I'm told the presentation will be circulated and shared with those that are seeking details. I thought I should start by saying there are 4 fundamental pillars that brought our democratic dispensation. And some of you would know that there was mass mobilization, there was the armed struggle, and there was international solidarity. And the 4th one, I'm just forgetting the 4th one. But you can't talk about mass democratic movement and leave out Kagiso Trust. We are established in 1985 in the midst of assisting communities deal with the transition, deal with exclusion, deal with installing their dignity. And really that's where we see the tutelage, the late Bess Nodier and the Archbishop becoming the first trustees establishing the Kagiso Trust. So we are in the midst of transformation, as it were. And we are excited because in that midst of transformation, we made a few acknowledgements. We acknowledged that there is still disproportionate between the promises that democracy made and the transition of our everyday lives as a population. We also acknowledged the political transformation that happened and the formal institutions that were established, that not everybody, as we speak, would enjoy the economic inclusion, will enjoy the safety and the dignity that we had hoped our people will enjoy. We also acknowledge the deeply entrenched challenges that we faced as a country, and had to say, as an institution, we believe we have an institutional capacity to contribute towards resolving some of these challenges we faced. And as mentioned yesterday, our advantage in dealing with the transition was that at least we had an investment arm that allowed us to decide on the type of programs that we would pursue. And I hope that the presentation works with me. So we had to make a strategic choice in terms of what are the areas that we believe we should really pay attention to, because they are transformative and they would encompass a larger part of our communities as we conceptualize programs around them. Education, in our view, is quite important. Socioeconomic development, civil society empowerment, and local governance. And I'll explain later on why these are important. But we also recognized that we can only achieve these through a strengthened partnership collaboration. So part of our implementation put partnership at the center of our implementation process. We obviously are seeking to implement programs that are impactful, programs that when COVID-19 happened, they can innovate and become agile in terms of their implementation. So we also acknowledge the role of technology in terms of our own implementation and integrated development approaches that we have pursued. Obviously, a lot was mentioned about financial sustainability that gave us the freedom to conceptualize our own programs and see to what extent we can begin to deal with transformative processes that our people faced. Obviously, as an organization, we had to recognize that we need to ensure that our processes, our systems are in place to effectively respond to the programs that have been pursued. The next slide talks about the sectors that we are focusing into. But maybe the next slide almost deals with exactly what did we do in terms of our approach in terms of model design. Our solution was to say, what is it that we can do in transforming public schooling, which 90% of our communities are still dependent on public schooling. So we designed a model which was dealing with the pipeline of education so that we can do what is called systemic transformation, and worked with the Department of Basic Education to make sure that the capability, the next slide is talking about that particular process of making sure that the capability we establish in the schooling system is left behind, because we worked with district officials in terms of systemic transformation of public schooling. And proudly to say, this model is not only implemented in partnership with the Department of Basic Education, but some of the private sector organizations are actually appointing us as an implementing agency to deal with the challenges of public schooling in their respective areas. So over the years, we are not implementing models that are static. So we appreciate the changes that are happening within the model design space. So obviously, when the issues of dealing with pathways exit of the students who are in the public schooling, we need to think about what is it that we can deal in terms of vocational training and skills development for people who are transiting the schooling system, university, and so on. And this is a comprehensive program that we have been implementing over the years. And as I say, it is a model that is alive, embedding new practice in terms of our systemic transformation attempt. So we deal with an ecosystem, and as the CEO would put it, we orchestrate the transformation of the ecosystem in education. We didn't only stop there in terms of education, but also moved into local governance, which is the next slide. We designed this collaboration model. This collaboration model recognizes that local government in terms of service delivery is the first point of contact for our people. How do we make sure that local government or local governance, as we are recently referring to it, is structured in such a manner that it is data-driven, that we understand the situation, the challenges of municipalities, that we empower the municipality capability and capacity, so that they can begin to effectively deal with the challenges that the local government is faced with. But also, how do we bring in a critical stakeholder, which is communities, so that they participate in holding the governance accountable? So this is a whole program that is running on its own, which we are implementing with strategic partners to make sure that at least in that space, there is a start to begin to mobilize accountability and service delivery. It's not an easy space, as you might appreciate, because of the capacity constraints that municipalities are confronted with, and our attempts really to work in collaboration. The next slide talks about really where we come from as an organization. As I said when I started with the presentation, that we believe in community mobilization. And part of what we had to acknowledge was, what is it that has happened to the NPO sector or into the NGO sector? Obviously, a lot of capacity exited and went to government. A lot of capacity went to business. What is it that we can do to reestablish that capability so that we can begin to work in conjunction with the civil society organizations? So there is a whole established capacity building program that we're implementing to mobilize an infrastructure at civil society level, but also appreciating the resource mobilization or access to resources, and coming with programs that are enabling this infrastructure to function. We are proud to mention that through the efforts done over the years, we are able to mobilize these institutions. This year will be its local government elections. They will be working to deal with civic education, voter education as an infrastructure that we have helped to establish, working again in collaboration and in partnership with other entities that are operating in this space. Our belief is that civil society needs to be reignited so that it can participate in the local governance and holding governance accountable. We couldn't ignore the next slide in terms of mainstreaming participation in the local economy. And our approach was really to seek for what we call less transformed sectors, like agriculture, which a lot of our people are still called emerging farmers, and so on. And what are the programs that can mainstream their participation through blended finance, through capacity building, through appreciating that part of their challenge is access to finance and access to markets, and how do we use aggregation, working with retailers to ensure that we maximize participation of the farmers, and also working with commodity associations who are specializing in different commodities and making sure that we mainstream that participation. So this is an important aspect because it deals with also the local economic development aspect, which is at municipality level. And our intention is not only to work with emerging farmers, but also to emphasize participation of young people and begin to deal with the ecosystem in terms of skills development. The next slide talks about how we're transiting into the SED space, starting from foundational needs of communities, transitional interventions in terms of those emerging farmers, but also transformational programs that are dealing with funding established commercial entities so that they can begin to participate effectively. And we're driven by this process of influencing. There's a perception, which I don't know whether it exists in our environment, that agriculture belongs to some other people. And our black communities and students, they are reluctant to appreciate it as an entry to the economy. So through the influence perspective, we work with schools to ensure that we embed this opportunity and begin to build those enterprises that can begin to be mainstreamed, and even target those that are established to participate and build employment, but also participation in the economy, because I think the issues are that we cannot continue to encourage people to seek employment. We need to be saying, how do we encourage people to establish their own enterprises so that we can deal effectively with that particular challenge. The next slide was mentioned yesterday, and it is really more to say, this is what drives our financial sustainability. On an annual basis, these operations are able to share with us the dividend, which we then allocate to various programs. to run as a development agency in those various programs. We have not left out the aspect of partnership collaboration. So the alternative funding and finance is part of the initiatives that we implement. We're not solely using our investment, but using it more as a leveraging to get partnerships participate with us. There are lessons learned over the 40 years that we have implemented our programs. One of those lessons was that transformation is not an overnight initiative. It takes some time. It requires patience. It requires concerted effort. But also financial independence enables us to begin to think of programs that are impactful, design them on our own, and really get feedback from communities on what is the partnership viable that we can establish working with communities. I think yesterday there was a lot of emphasis about igniting human capacity. So all our programs are embedded in terms of igniting human capacity, in terms of leadership and governance in implementing our various programs. I think if you can go to the next slide, it's more really explaining that our premise of implementation is still reliant on partnership. So there are various partners that we have formalized relations, and we do take some time, I did mention this yesterday as a comment, to establish these partnerships, because we need to deal with issues of alignment so that our partnership is aligned in terms of what we wish to do and how best we can use the partnership to effectively impact on the programs that we implement. We're still interested in education because really this is the driver of technical skills, vocational training, which is the new developments in the basic education space. And there are various programs that we are implementing to deal with these particular limitations through a partnership collaboration, and also with the Department of Basic Education, who also commit financial resourcing into this space. And then the next aspect is citizenry or citizen mobilization. As I mentioned, that our heartbeat as a development agency is the relations that we build with communities and joint programs, so that we can begin to deal with large-scale participation of our communities and make sure that we build their capacity as we implement our various programs. Thank you very much.
So again, it gives me a great honor to invite our chief guest, Mr. Ernest Gopa, who is a graduate of University of Witwatersrand in Politics and International Relations. Mr. Gopa currently serves as the Deputy Head of Mission from June 2022 and as the Acting High Commissioner since September 2025 at the South African High Commission in Nairobi, Kenya. He has also served as the political counselor at the South African High Commission in Abuja, Nigeria, between 2013 and 2018. Mr. Gopa previously served as the Deputy Director, Nuclear Disarmament, Deputy Director, RSA China Desk, DFA Parliamentary Liaison Officer, Office of the Director General, Assistant Director, Protocol Office, Department of Foreign Affairs. Mr. Ernest Gopa joined the diplomatic services in 2006 from the parliamentary services, where he served as the clerk of various committees in the National Parliament and the Pan-African Parliament. Inter alia, the Portfolio Committee of Foreign Affairs, the Constitutional Review Committee, the Standing Committee on Powers and Privileges of MPs, the Standing Committee on Privileges, Members' Legislative Proposal, as well as the Pan-African Parliament Rules Committee. Mr. Gopa is married to Mrs. Puleng Gopa, and they have 3 children. Your Excellency, we are very honored that you're here with us, and we invite you to give your remarks. Welcome.
And good evening, distinguished guests. I have to say this, taking a paper out of my pocket. While all other speakers before me were presenting from their gadgets. And this is because my little one noticed that I was scribbling something last night. And she asked me, "Daddy, what are you doing?" And I said, "Baby, I'm doing a very important message that I have to deliver tomorrow. I said, but why don't you do it from your laptop? I said, Nana, I'm used to this. You know, I normally read from my papers. Says, oh my God, born before technology. And she's only 11, eh? So, in preparing these remarks, I tried to do my own desktop research into the Kagiso Trust and the KCDF, and therefore I have come across names, and I hope they still are the names that I'm going to recognize. But the nice thing about being a diplomat is that you can just say all protocol observed and everything is in order. But it would be amiss of me not to say, to recognize Mr. Kotso Skuman, the CEO of Kagiso Capital, Dr. Mankodi Muitse, CEO of Kagiso Trust, Ms. Grace Mangi, Executive Director, KCDF, Ms. Rose Mambo, Chair of KCDF Board, Ms. Atia Yaya, Chair of KCDF IH, Mr. Athanamu, Director, KCDF IH, Mr. Joseph Ogutu, Chair, Safaricom Foundation, I hope he's here. Members of the boards, trustees, corporate partners, executives of both Kagiso Trust and KCDF, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, Sanbonani, habari zenu. Once again, allow me to stand on existing protocol already observed. And from the onset, I wish to express on behalf of the South African High Commission and myself, gratitude to Kagiso Trust, Kagiso Capital, and Kenya Community Development Foundation, KCDF, the organizers of this important occasion, our immense gratitude to participate in this important occasion. We are indeed honored and delighted to have been invited to deliver these remarks. Program Director, somebody once said to me, if you want to prolong and mess up your program, there are 3 types of people that you should invite to give remarks: a politician, a priest, or a diplomat. However, tonight I will take diplomats out of this equation, as I plan to be very brief. Ladies and gentlemen, this year, 2026, by coincidence or perhaps by design, South Africa commemorates 3 milestones in her struggle for freedom and social justice, namely the 70th anniversary of Women's March on the Union Building, and I know that we have more women than men in this room. I applaud you women. They marched on the seat of government of the then apartheid government to protest against the past laws in August 1956. We again commemorate the 50th anniversary of the determination and sacrifices displayed by the youth of June 1976 in what came to be known as the Soweto Students' Uprising, as well as the 30th anniversary of the adoption of our Constitution in May 1996, which was signed into law, of course, in December 1996. The 1956 Women's March and the 1976 Students' Uprisings not only highlighted the enormous sacrifices of women and the youth in our struggle for freedom and social justice, but also remind us that women and the youth, the most vulnerable groups in our communities, have always been at the forefront of change. Our struggle, of course, culminated in our freedom in 1994 and the adoption of our Constitution in 1996. And its preamble in summary states inter alia that, and I quote, "We, the people of South Africa, recognize the injustices of our past, honor those who suffered for justice and freedom in our land, respect those who have worked to build and develop our country. We therefore adopt this Constitution so as to improve the quality of life of all citizens and free the potential of each person," unquote. Distinguished guests, it is within this context that today we wish to commemorate the 40th anniversary of Kagiso Trust and the 29th anniversary of KCDF, as well as to honor and respect their committed efforts to build and develop our communities. I hope that next year when you celebrate the 30th anniversary, we will get to be invited to be part of that celebration. The connection and relationship between the two entities mirror the vision of South Africa's foreign relations, which is an African continent that is prosperous, peaceful, democratic, non-racial, non-sexist, and united, and which contributes to a world that is just and equitable. This relationship between Kagiso Trust and KCDF also reflects on the cordial and strategic bilateral relations between our two countries, Kenya and South Africa. In this regard, South Africa remains the fourth biggest investor country in the economy of Kenya, spanning various sectors, creating thousands of jobs, contributing towards Kenya's development. And outside the SADC region, Kenya remains South Africa's biggest trading partner in the continent. Program Director, I must place it on record that the South African High Commission and the United Nations in Nairobi have over the years applied somewhat a similar sustainability model to the one used by Kagiso Trust and KCDF. By rallying the corporate partners to support the social responsibility programs for the International Nelson Mandela Day every year on 18 July, to make a difference in the lives of those less fortunate among us. This is, of course, informed by the challenges in the global economy and the shrinking donor and sponsorship base. Today's official handover of sale and shares from Kagiso Investment to KCDF speaks to a mutually beneficial partnership that demonstrated how locally owned investment structures can provide long-term community development. It also marks a new chapter of empowerment and sustainability for KCDF, which will enable it to deepen its investment strategy and secure long-term financial independence for community development initiatives. I therefore wish to conclude by noting that the constitution of our countries, both of Kenya and South Africa, are very similar and are crafted in a way that calls on us to not only redress the injustices of our past, but to progressively realize the rights of all our citizens to housing, healthcare, food, water, social security, education, and a better and prosperous life for all. But without NGOs such as Kagiso Trust, /Kagiso Capital, and KCDF to complement this of our governments, the efforts of our governments, those rights will remain only ideals on paper. I therefore wish to thank Kagiso Trust and KCDF, their respective boards, corporate partners, and trustees for embarking on this mutually empowering journey. Empowering journey together, and wish the two entities the very best of their future efforts, and may they spread to include others in these NGO to NGO empowerment programs for the benefit of our communities and continent at large. Asanteni sana, ke a leboga. I thank you.
Thank you very much.